that actually, uh, that reminds me, there's something I want to talk to you about of a project that I'm going to start that I want your feedback on. But before I do that, I'm just gonna have you introduce yourself. Like if you've watched any of my other shows, especially if someone's like on the first time, it's basically just like take me through your career wherever you want to start up till now. And it doesn't have to be just about comics. If you did something before this that sort of like dove you into it, or especially if you're in anything else related to art or film or whatever.
Ooh, all right. This is going to be quite the intro. I warn you.
That,
I've
that's
been
those are
through
the
a lot
best.
and I've made every mistake in the book. Uh, Started out typical, like every other artist. I kind of grew up really attracted to anything aesthetic, anything cool. I was into it. I think what really got me wanting to be an artist was me looking through my dad's album collection. Because
Okay.
look through an album collection, there's just tons of art, and I liked it all the graphic design, all the art and everything. But I stumbled upon Frank Frazetta's work
Okay.
that he did for Molly Hatchet, the Death Dealer and stuff like that. And I was
Yeah, yeah.
blown away by that stuff. And it just grew and grew in my life until I really took an interest to it. But honestly, I didn't consider art a viable career for me until it was time for me to get out of the Air Force. Because I was in the Air Force for 6 years, and this is later in life. Heck, I was probably 30 years old by then. But you getting out of the Air Force, you're trying to figure out what it is you're going to do with your life. I'm like, well, if I'm going to go get out of the Air Force and go to school, I'm going to do what I've always wanted to do. I'm going to go train to be an artist. And the
Okay.
idea was to go and learn to be a sci-fi and fantasy illustrator. So I went to RimCAD in Denver for 4 years. Did that, did really well, enjoyed it, had a good time, learned a lot. But like a lot of artists, you get out of school and you don't really know what to do. You got a portfolio and you've done a lot of work, but finding work is tough, unless
Yeah.
the kind of things lined up. Uh,
Yeah, it's like, do you want to teach or just start your own business? There's not many options in art to where it's just like, oh, it's you just join this corporation and work your way up. It's like there's four of those, you know.
exactly. And everybody else wants, there's a million other
Every
people
yeah, the
going for
best
those
and the best
jobs.
are there. Yeah.
So, I kind of knew that coming out, but I didn't think it would be that much of a desert, and I'm from Louisiana. And when I got out of the college, I moved back to Louisiana, and there's definitely not a lot of, you know, uh, professional illustration to do around that area. And I don't know, I was kind of destitute, but lucky for me, I kind of stumbled into doing portraiture because in the deep South, people love pictures of their pets and their kids and things. So I got into doing that and found that I really liked fine art painting. I was actually pretty good at that. When you learn illustration in school, you kind of learn the fine art side of things a little bit too.
Yeah.
Love that. There was kind of a fine artist in me the whole time. So I got into
So you were
portraiture and
doing
fine art.
like painting portraits of people and their pets?
Yep.
That's awesome. Okay.
Oil paint and acrylic, yep. And did good. And I was able to get by with that. I did find that it was sort of feast or famine. Kind
Yeah,
of like
yeah.
either you're making it or you're trying to figure out what to eat. Uh, but then I started teaching uh, private portrait painting lessons in a gallery where I stayed. I was living a very bohemian lifestyle. I was living in a studio in an abandoned pharmaceutical drug warehouse in Monroe. Crazy stuff. We can
Okay.
get into that later if you want. But I had the space, so I started teaching private portrait painting lessons and found that I really enjoyed teaching. I was like, I know what to say, and I'm pretty good at this. So I decided to pursue my MFA in North Louisiana so that I could go and teach higher education.
Cool.
That led me to Little Rock, Arkansas, where I got my first teaching gig at UA Little Rock, and have been there since 2018.
Nice. That's quite a legit step-by-step American career.
There
That's
you
actually
go.
super rare in comics where you find somebody that's like, I did one thing, And then I just went through school for art and did what I could doing that, and eventually like started teaching art. That's really cool. So when did you start doing comics? Have you always sort of been dabbling in that, or was there a point where you're like started to translate some of your fine art or whatever into the comic world?
Yeah, good question. Uh, I've always been into comics. In the 90s when, Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee and all those guys were, on the top, I fell in love with their work. It was so cool at the time. It was such a change from what it had been before. And I was hooked ever since. Always loved comic art and that kind of illustration, like Heavy Metal magazine and things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Where all the cool stuff was.
I'm
Uh,
sure. Yeah, yeah. Still
these
are
days,
really.
cool stuff's kind of everywhere a little bit, thanks to that era of art. But that's where I went back in those days to find the really cool and gritty stuff. And that interest has followed me ever since. I've always followed that kind of that genre. But then one day, I wish I could remember who this was that said this, because I listen to a lot of stuff online, including your stuff. But
Yeah.
someone said that yesterday's portfolio is today's pet project. I'm going to kick
Huh.
myself later if I don't remember, because I can't remember who said
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
That was a really important thing because I had portfolios. I've got tons of portfolio work. I've got a storage room full of fine art just sitting there, just portfolios upon portfolios of stuff. And I was like, I need a pet project, and that'll be actually kind of fun, and I can really just like pour all my interests and storytelling interests and everything into this. I'm just gonna go for it, and it's just me. Up to this day, it's just me. I'm just kind of wearing all the hats. Uh, But yeah, I think that's kind of what started it. And I was listening to Todd McFarlane too in one of his interviews, and he's like, if it was up to me, I'd tell you to never do it because then I wouldn't have to compete with you, or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, why don't I just try it? Let's throw something together. And I got a lot of training and stuff, I can whip something out. It might not be the best thing in the world, but it might be better than some of the stuff out there. Let's just do it.
Yeah, that's wild. It's interesting to see somebody do it from the artistic angle because I've always done I have zero like drawing ability or illustrative abilities. It's one step above stick figures. And
Yeah.
so I've always looked at things from a writing perspective. So like I got into everything because I had the stories in my head and I was trying to figure out the mediums in which to tell the stories. It could have been, some were video games, some were comics, a lot were movies and TV shows. And so in the same sense that you were like, it was almost like a light bulb to sort of just like go all in and like do this pet project in a comic. I had the same thing whenever it's like I was doing other things and it was just like, wow, this might be perfect to have just like a full control over something that could be a full story. But I had to hire somebody because I couldn't draw it myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I guess we'll dive into a little bit of the writing aspect then from your perspective. So how what's your book that you're uh promoting right now? Is that the one that the same project you've been working on for all these couple of years where you did like multiple issues and now are you crowdfunding the trade? I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, I'm still promoting Humbaba, the four-part series.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah.
and I'm using that to kickstart my next project.
And is the next project the big secret or
Not so much a big secret, it's more like I'm not totally certain about it yet. I know that it's going to be a sequel to the Humbaba story.
okay.
It's going to be an additional four-part series that exists in the same universe.
But this is the first four issues. I'm aware, but yeah, I guess for like the audience, it's like you've been working on these issues for at least 2 years, I feel like it possibly
Yeah,
longer, right? And
yeah,
now they're all out, and now you're actually like gonna crowdfund to get some sales from them. And I'm sure, and we'll go over like your audience and how you gathered that before Kickstarter. But
yeah.
so now you're using kind of your first series to build the momentum to actually get some funding so that you can start the next big limited series that you're doing, which is in the same universe. You just said it's a sequel, or at least like a play in the same universe.
Yeah, it'll be a sequel.
Okay.
Yeah, I've
Well,
got the
cool.
first issue totally planned out, so yeah, it's going to be a sequel. Yeah.
What do you do now to like before Kickstarter? How were people reading it, and were you on the web comic platforms? Were you selling it on a website? I don't know the full details.
Yeah, it took me about a year to kind of finish the four-part series, maybe a little less. But you're right, it's been a few years. One of the reasons was at the time when I'd started, I was actually kind of soliciting publishers to see if I could get published by, the biggest company that would take it in. And the first one that bit was Blood Moon Comics.
That's
And
right. Okay, yeah.
yeah, and I was with them. I was published with them for a while, and they were a good group of guys. That was really cool. Uh, but then Diamond kind of bit the dust a little bit, or filed for bankruptcy.
Yeah, they were one of the ones that got pretty snagged hard. Well,
Yeah,
they're not the only one, but yeah.
and
That's what
that
sucks,
sucked.
yeah.
And they, they sent shockwaves through the indie industry, and they went down. And so I got it back. The ball's back in my court. And that few years, the book was with them. And
Yeah, I
I
totally
kind of
forgot
went
about that.
quiet for a
Yeah.
while. I honestly didn't know how to handle the whole publishing thing. I just kind of handed it to them. I was like, all right, do what you can with it. And, I wasn't totally quiet. Like I was like calling comic shops. I got
Oh,
online,
yeah, so
called
you
every
didn't like
comic
hustle
shop.
it, yeah.
Yeah. And I had my, diamond code number, giving it to them and everything. And with the time that we had, not much came of the comic as far as, me benefiting from it while they had it. Maybe if they had more time, I think it would have done a little bit better. But now ball's in my court, so now Kickstarter and now, self-promote. I'm not really looking for publishers at right now, not at this point. I feel like I need some kind of experience a little bit with stuff before I hand it over again. Like I want to experience some of the publishing and promotional stuff on my own for a while.
Yeah, no, I'm basically in the same boat because yeah, I had my stint with publishing. Same with yours and Blood Moon, to where it's like, yeah, great relationship, great guys. You learn a lot just asking, like, just going through that process. And that's where it really, like, this time around, it's like, I now know kind of everything that they're doing. And it's just like, if I do a little bit of the same things on my own, I think that I could get a better return, on my investment
Hmm.
that way. At least if I start that way as opposed to ending that way. Um, but at the same time, like the way you're doing it now, it's like it probably still works in the same way because if you're the people that are on Kickstarter are not the same people that are going to the stores. And so it's almost like it's just two separate markets that you're going through. Of course, there are people that are in both sides of the Venn diagram or whatever, but just because you Kickstarter after you're going through the comic shops, it doesn't mean that like you're gonna lose or not get as many people on the Kickstarter platform. I feel like it's just like it's like I feel as if to go the other direction is just to get a bigger publisher because they see you get bigger numbers on Kickstarter. It's like that's kind of the only real reason or like reason to aspire to go Kickstarter first and then to a publisher is to try to do like as much as you can on your own, and maybe that gets enough momentum to where somehow if you're just like really popped off, then you just sort of sit back and relax as the publishers take it over, as opposed to if you go through the same motions and try to go through the comic shops and make that a hit, and then it's like, well, once I get my name out there, now I can sort of use that as kind of what you're doing to where it's just now I'm funneling it to myself, which is the path that I've taken because the publishers basically did two things. It's like they built credibility to where it's like now I'm seen as a creator that's on the shelves. It might not have been that many shelves, but it was on the shelves with the same, A grade comics that know and love. And
Mhm.
then B, it's like it just got me more readers. It does not get you more money necessarily, but it at least gets you in front of more eyeballs. So it's like you have the credibility and just a bit more of a splash into which like you can build up a little bit of social media. So then I
Yeah.
use that to where it's kind of like I'm now somewhat known. I'm above zero, I'm not a complete unknown, and now I'm a few levels up. So now I can use that to sort of capture what might be or turn some of those into my own audience. And it's
Yeah.
like, so I don't see the good news for everybody out there is no matter which path you take when you start, I don't really think it makes that much of a difference in the long run if you're trying to just continue doing this, depending on people's goals. And it's cool that I forgot that you went through the Blood Moon route. That now you're gonna. So are you gonna try to really expand and make your publishing line different in a sense that like where me the one I just kickstarted I'm like trying to make my publishing line the more manga black and white, release them as trades onlys, it kind of just to distinguish myself as something different from just all the other sort of whatever you call that, small press or like self-published publishing lines that are mostly just your own comics. Like, do you plan to at all branch any further than that, or just this? It's just like this is my brand. These are my books. I'm selling my brand and my books, and that's what I do.
I think so. I don't think I ever made a conscious decision to be like, okay, I'm just going to be different. I don't think
No,
what
yeah,
my,
I guess different in that sense.
yeah, I think what the terminology I chose was like, this is going to be the flavor I want it to be.
Yeah, that
The
makes
own
sense. Yeah.
flavor. There's artists that I look up to and just things from the past and experiences I've had with art. Like if there's, I may not be all that good. I don't really know. I don't know how to critique myself, but I know what I like, you know, and that's important. And I mean, if you know what you like, to me that's a really important piece of the puzzle to like making work like this is like you have to really do what you like.
Oh, for sure.
If
Yeah.
you choose to do something for some reason, but you don't really like it yourself, I don't think you're gonna last. You know what I mean? The
No,
entertainment
yeah, for
part
sure.
for
No.
itself kind of goes away. So if I had any recommendations for any young artists, it'd be like, do what you like. Figure out what it is you like and just aim for that.
That's my biggest thing now with the people that talk to me on through YouTube or other creators I meet at conventions and stuff that are pretty close to brand new. It's like don't settle for anything less than your grandest vision. It's like that's the beauty of comics is there are no gatekeepers. Like you create the product yourself from start to finish if you want including the printing. Like you can make things upside down in circles, whatever you want to do. All the characters, the art that you can think of. It's like just go all out with it. But so many settle for just trying to find whoever is willing to, work with them that week, or just like someone that's in a super, super low budget that or free or whatever, or
Mhm.
their neighbor. And it's like for some things it's like that, but especially like if it's your very very first project and you're just trying to get your feet wet and it's kind of just a stepping stone to like kind of your greater catharsis project, then it's understandable. But if you're really trying to be like this is my the big thing the way I always like bring it up to people, I'm curious to hear what you teach your students, but like if you're really it's like once you think you're ready and you want to bring something to the world and have it compete in the marketplace on the shelves, like when you think you're ready at that point, you have to go all in a sense. Otherwise you're not going to be able to compete on the shelves. It's okay to be different or, at a skill level that's maybe not at a comparable exactly, but it's the same with film and all of that. Like it's just going to be obvious if you can have the grandest vision in the world, but if you're filming it on mini DV in a world where we're doing everything in 4K, it's just unless that's like the style you're going for, it's just not going to work out. So
Yeah.
go pro, and have passion. Like if you have enough passion for it, there shouldn't be any reason to not go as professional as possible as you can.
Yeah, that's good advice.
What
Absolutely.
what what do you A, do your students at all think this is cool? B, do they know about your Kickstarter or do you try to keep that on the down low? And C, like
I
what do
didn't
you
tell any of
teach
my
about
students about the Kickstarter.
Oh.
I would have felt weird about that. As far as interest in the comic, it ranges everywhere from total apathy to like admiration. It's like some of them want to buy it, and some of them just couldn't care less.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of
Yeah.
like coworkers, just like cool, and other
Yeah.
people are like, what? I
Yeah.
had teachers that were in full-blown like well-known bands that most people didn't even care about.
Yeah. I think their attitude is like, well, he might be doing that, but he's just a teacher. Kind of thing.
Yeah,
They're all cool though. I love my students.
that's awesome. That was kind of if I were to transition careers, it would be moving into teaching in some way, shape, or form. But I don't have any master's degrees in anything.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's tough. It's like I could get a lecturing role at maybe a community college or something like that. But um, so do you, is everything you teach just all, I guess, technical? So it's all about like creating art, or do you teach anything that's about like a career in art?
Oh yeah. I feel like if I'm teaching students, I harp on, career stuff.
What's
Edu
what's your like main thesis when you're telling the kids about
Careers,
starting or getting a career in art?
I tell them that when you're in the classes, this is where you need to start doing your best. Uh, I'm sure to tell them that no one's going to be waiting there to hire them when they graduate. They're not going to be out looking for you. You need to be ready before you leave, you know. And you got to have a portfolio together or a pet project or whatever it is. You got to have it ready to go and to take it seriously, take that part seriously. The degree's not going to do you any good.
Yeah. It is all about just show me what you can do. It's almost like people don't care. It's like it's almost the equivalent of just, hiring and saying you need a driver's license and a social security number. And then it's like if I just have to check the box that says you have a degree, but everything beyond that is like I just need to know what you can do. What are the students when they think of a career, what is it that they're wanting to do mainly? Is it mostly like painting or is it more like design or um I'm just curious because I am now trying to talk to the younger crowds and I feel like art is almost getting less and less cared about as whenever I was in school. Like whenever I was in younger, you asked every kid in the class, 1 in 3 wanted to be some form of an artist. Whether it was illustration, musician, filmmaker. And by the time and like nowadays, like I'm asking and it's just like at best someone might want to be like uh some kind of graffiti artist or something like that. Like almost like it's just they want to be a part of the lifestyle of like fashion or what's cool,
Yeah.
but not necessarily like learn the skill of some kind of art as much as but I may be off. So like I'm trying to think like what do people see what are the youth seeing as the career of art now?
In the classes that I teach currently, I just I teach figure drawing and painting.
Okay.
So we don't, in those classes, there's no need to get into the really artsy thesis-y kind of stuff
Yeah.
you usually learn in school. And that's good because I'm just not comfortable in that realm. It's weird for me to say that because you can see all this art back here. That's all fine art painting stuff with a thesis and everything. But the kids, when they come to school, a lot of times the art kids are not too concerned about career. They're just kind of lunging into college, to kind of see where it goes. And that's just the classes that I teach because those are studio classes,
Okay.
but you just come in and draw and paint. Uh, but the school does have programs that teach graphic design and other, art related skills that they can get careers in.
And that is that like I guess yeah, can you yeah, now I'm like starting to think back to like my college and now I'm starting to remember like yeah, there are like you had at some point, but not at the beginning, you had to sort of choose where you were going to go um and I guess like yeah, you could go down to the sub and be like I want to be a professional, yeah, whatever it is, charcoal or
Charcoal fine artist. Yeah, I'll
yeah.
always tell them as soon as they come in, if they're freshmen or something like that, I'm like, you need to start thinking, you go ahead and decide on something. You don't want to just jump into college and kind of hope it works out and turns into something because it won't.
Oh yeah.
99.9% of the time, it ain't just, things are not just going to happen for you. Uh, but I have a lot of advice to the young folks like you're talking about art school, because I get a lot of questions about that too. And I think the main one is like, do I need to go to art school to learn to do this?
Yeah.
Comics, illustrations, stuff like that. And the answer is no. You don't need to go to school.
No,
In fact, it won't be worth it for you unless you can get it totally funded. Otherwise, you're going to come out of there and you're not going to have a job and you're going to be in debt.
for sure.
So if you can get it funded, yeah, it might be worth it to kind of go, for that experience. You can learn anything there is to know about the kind of art that I do and stuff online these days.
True, yeah.
There's resources, it's out there. There's probably a free YouTube video out there for what you want to know. One of the things you can't get by learning online is like the camaraderie and kind of the experience of working with people in the field of art. And you don't get to kind of rub elbows with folks who are, who might know somebody, you don't network very well uh, outside of school. You can.
That's true, yeah.
School's a
That's
good place to start networking, and that's really important. That's one of the things that I didn't have at all when I got out of school. I hadn't networked. Uh, I'm kind of an introvert, so I kind of don't
that's
fit in.
no, yeah. I think there was even studies done that showed um it's like you have a better we can more accurately predict how well you do based upon who you live next to and like who and basically who your like closest five friends are and they
Mm,
or something like that and they found out that like if you live next to somebody that went to certain schools and if your five friends went to certain schools it's like you're just statistically gonna be at the same level of the people that are like that or so and I can't remember and it's just like most of the success stories that you see where it's like sort of the outliers, it's like they were a clique in college and or if they weren't, it was they were some kind of they were networking on their own without school and they had to do that through other methods whether it was they all surfed together and on that beach they happened to network with other people that were on that beach and those people were a part of some kind of greater community and they just like merged forces with the greater
mm.
aspirations of surfing but then that turns into now they're the crew that also whatever it is I can't remember the examples I'm thinking of but it was like that you show me your friends, you show me, I'll show you your future kind of thing. And it's
Yeah.
like, dang, yeah, that is to where uh, trying to just networking is so important, I guess, whenever it comes to actually a career. Really, it's just it just showcases even in this world where how important collaboration is. And that's like one of the biggest things that I push where it's like the best and fastest and easiest way to level up in this career and probably any else is to partner hand in hand. Like you are both a writer and artist, so it's a bit different, but like getting a variant cover artist, that's super pro. Like, somebody that is recognized that you can if you can actually latch onto that person to where they'll be a mentor to you in a sense, and build you up and like want to work with you, and not just someone that like does it for a paycheck, but someone that for a full project is like, we're in this together to make a really awesome thing. Make sure that that person is like someone you're worth, like you want to invest in, and that they are, you know, someone you want to be friends with and a colleague with, and not just someone that's doing it for the money, or that you're doing it on the same end, where it's like that's how you level up. If you can get someone that's a level higher than you, and to help and just rise with them. And yeah, I actually wrote a whole essay that I put in one of my books that was like the arm's length rule, where I talk about like there's a reason if whenever I say higher up, it's like not necessarily better, but just let's just say has worked with a bigger publisher, or has just been in the game longer, just been doing it longer. There's different metrics that you can use to sort of like that's who you'd be wanting to aspire to. Your own idols in general should be someone that you should try to work with, and that's something we have the possibility to do in this field because there are no agents usually you have to go through. Like you can reach out to people directly.
Hmm.
Um, and most of us are looking for work. And if you have something credible and like awesome that you want to work with somebody on as a writer or an artist, you reach out to them and try to collaborate. But people will ask me like, why would anybody that's at that level want to work with me or something like that? And it's like that's where I say it's got to be an arm's length. Like they can't
Hmm.
be so far to where you drag them down.
Yeah. Yeah.
But everybody benefits in investing in diamonds in the rough. So
Yeah.
if you are at a high level and you can sort of and you see somebody like that is super talented but unknown, uh, that you can basically quickly use that's like it's like investing in something that's at a low price when you know it's going to be worth a lot more in a few years. And it's like if I'm the one that's on the in, when this person blows up, now we both blow up together. And like if I've been in this game for a long time, you lose momentum. You sort of fall out of the trends. But you're now mentoring this young buck who's about to be the new cool thing.
Yeah.
And like they can see that you're new, you're just unknown, but you have the talent that's there. And if you combine efforts, and now you're the next rising star, and you basically rise together because they are investing their time into molding you into a flower or whatever. But that's my how I phrase it, to where it's just like, but if you're too far low, that if you're in too young and like can't even then it's just like too far, then it's just like you're kind of wasting their time if you're
Yeah.
pressuring somebody. But when
Hmm.
you're just far enough to where it's like if it's exactly where you want, if you're in that position to where you have the skill, you have the great portfolio like your students, and it's like now I just need to get out there. That's whenever your networking can actually pay off, when you're like, this is what I've got, and I've got this short story, and if you wouldn't mind taking a look, and they might be like, dang, as a writer or an artist, it's like I can either branch out that story if you want to illustrate it, or vice versa. But
Hmm.
tell us now a little bit about like the plot line of Humbaba.
Yeah. So like it's about an innocent man who's manipulated by sinister forces into releasing a dangerous creature into an enchanted wildlife refuge. That's kind of the elevator pitch. But when I started the story, I kind of was like, okay, I'm just gonna start. I didn't have a story or anything. But then again, it was that thing was like, oh, I'm gonna do what I want to do, you know. And a story like that just kind of intrigued me. And in school, we studied an ancient Mesopotamian flood myth called the Epic of Gilgamesh. Uh,
Okay.
if you've ever heard of that, I don't know.
Yeah,
But
yeah. It's Sumerian or something like that.
yeah, and the uh, the name Humbaba comes from a creature that lives in a forest in the story that fights with Gilgamesh and everything. And I thought that was really cool. I was kind of enchanted by that story when I learned about it. And you'll notice the main character's name is Gil G Mash.
Oh,
So it's a mashup of kind of that story. It's not a direct uh, translation or anything of that story, but I used it a little bit, and that's how it came about. And I'm from Louisiana. The story takes place in Louisiana. I've always felt like Louisiana was sort of a great place for kind of fantasy and spooky things, and
Oh
creep,
yeah.
creepy stuff and everything. So it's like that's a great setting for the story. And I kind of felt like it needed to be isolated instead of like an open world where just anyone can intervene in an isolated story. Kind of like an Alien where no one can hear you scream, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I contained the whole story within this one wildlife refuge that has a history of its own, and it just kind of went from there. Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, I did the same. I everything I write is like contained. I
yeah.
can't. It's like if I make it too big, it to me that's too much. It's like to me it's easier to just like it's either contained in a space or contained in a time.
Hmm. Yeah.
Your art is awesome. I mean, like I think I've told you this before, but yeah, you have such a distinct style that I'm pulling up your Instagram and looking at it right now. But
Yeah.
now I connect it more with it looks physical, like you're painting it. It
Hmm.
doesn't look digital.
Hmm. Yeah, it is digital, but I treat the digital painting with the same process that I do with oil paint.
I get you.
Same thing. So it ends up, and I'm using Procreate, and they have some brushes and stuff on there that just kind of look physical. And the combination of those two things just kind of, you get what you see there.
Yeah, it's super cool. Did is it sort of can teenagers and kids read it or is it mostly like or is it a bit hardcore?
It's a bit hardcore.
Okay.
As far as it's got a bit of violence, a lot of fighting, a lot of blood, a lot of mutants.
But
Uh,
no cursing or nudity. I feel like to me, when I'm at conventions, that's what gets people. They're like, that's fine if there's violence, but if there's any like cursing or nudity, that's where that people are like, ah, like
no gratuitous nudity or cursing or anything like that.
I think the we'll say PG-13.
There you go. Yeah, yeah.
That yeah, that's where my biggest thing now is I am trying to figure I've basically gone too far off the deep end to where I keep my books keep getting more and more sort of mature and like so but every time I'm at conventions I keep saying to myself like my next stuff needs to be backwards. I need to go more kid friendly or at least like teenager because that's everybody that's into it. It's just like we were talking about earlier with like the cool thing. It's as if the the 11-year-olds are seeing, well, what do the 13-year-old kids think is cool? And the
Yeah.
13-year-olds are looking at like, well, what's the stuff that the high school seniors or what college kids think cool? And that's like the kind of the most hardcore crazy stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like the people that are most attracted to my stuff are really kind of too young to read it. Like they're basically the 15-year-old kids.
Hmm.
And I remember whenever I was 15, I also was into like I didn't even my I grew up where I was walking distance from a library. And I lived fortunately at a very nice big library and nobody got DVDs or VHSs back in the day. Like, so
Right.
I could just go to the library, and the librarians never cared or asked about IDs. It didn't even like come up. It was just whatever I rented, I got. And so I've been watching radar movies for as long as I can really remember.
Yeah.
And and my parents never really thought anything of it. And
Yeah.
so I was like pretty like in deep into horror movies well before I was even, I mean, I probably was like 11 whenever I really got into it. But, so yeah, by the time I was in high school, like, yeah, it was the craziest things that you could think of. It was like, that's what I was into. And I'm just finding more and more to where it's like, I'm at these, if I'm selling things on the streets or at like local places, it's always the kids that are the most like intrigued by my stuff.
Yeah.
And
I think
then
it's always
because of
like that.
that, they have younger like siblings. And I'm like, man, guys, like this is not really for this little girl. Like shit, like I know that it's like it stars females, but like this is I feel uncomfortable. Even though I want your money, I'm uncomfortable having you guys read this. And even mine, there's no actual like gratuitous nudity or anything like that, but there's a lot of implied stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, I was gonna I forgot that you're published by Blood Moon, so I want to talk about the technicals as far as like what you're doing now. Do you know who you're printing your trade with, or like what are the difficulties now when you're actually having to do the layout yourself? And what's kind of the process that you're doing for that, as much as you want to share?
Yeah, the layout stuff I settled even before I got with Blood Moon. I mean, I just have files saved on my computer that are formatted and everything. And so that part of it solved. You mean
But
the
are
layout
you,
of
did
the
they,
pages? The
sorry to cut you off, but did Blood Moon do like a credits page or some kind of excess? Did they adjust your covers there at all or anything like that? So everything was 100% yours already. So you already did all this.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes they took over like what was to go on the back cover or something like that. They
Okay.
moon that or something. But other than that, it was I didn't make any adjustments to what I'd done. Yeah.
Okay. So
What was
it's
that?
pretty much like the same files you send them are the same ones you're sending. Who are you printing with?
These days I'm just using Comics Wellspring.
Okay.
They
Yep.
treat me pretty good. The turnaround can be quite a while. It's like 14 days once it gets approved and then they send it to you, you know. But the stuff they send is crisp, man. It turns out
Yeah, that I
never had to
know
complain.
everyone, not everyone, but plenty that use them, and they all have great things to say. And apparently the like the executives or the guys behind Comics Wellsprings are really cool and super customer friendly and all that.
Yeah, yeah. But really, I'm having trades printed just to take to conventions and just using my booth mostly. I'm not shooting for any comic shops or anything like that at the moment. I do now have digital PDF versions available on my website, which
All
I'm
right, there we go. We can send
that
people
it
there.
seems like that's the way to go these days. You know, people who don't collect comics but read comics, they just get digital stuff, you know.
Yeah, I've talked about that ad nauseum on here that so many they just read it on their phone.
Yeah, yeah, it's very
Um,
convenient, and you know,
yeah, and it's
there
like
is
it makes
that, you know.
sense. We do everything else on our phone.
Yeah.
Um, now I think I've covered most. Was there anything you wanted to talk about?
Hmm. I didn't have anything prepared. What
You're
I
live right
would,
now. How much longer are you live for on your Kickstarter campaign?
it started June 2nd. It'll be done at July 2nd. So it's still going on. I've reached the
Plenty of time. Okay.
Yeah. I reached my goal really early. I didn't shoot very high because it was my first time with Kickstarter. I didn't know how this was gonna feel, you know. So I don't know
Oh
if
yeah.
I'm gonna get
Don't blame you.
overwhelmed or
Yeah.
anything, but yeah, I hit my goal right away. It's pretty awesome.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Um, one thing before I let you go was so yeah, I just did my Kickstarter campaign for like the book that's launching uh the flagship for my publishing title that I'm still working on. Probably go to printers if not July, August. But I'm also working on something new that I'm at the very early stages of building. But what I'm trying to build, I'm trying to get a read on people of how useful would this be for you? Because what I have wanted is basically a website that allows me to upload everything I've done, every the scripts I've written, the interior pages I've done, the links to all the podcasts I've ever been on, um, basically all you know going through a publisher, there's so much stuff you have to send to them that's not just the book or the pages. You have to send them the synopsis for every issue. You have to
Mhm.
send them every cover, every variant cover. The if you and a lot of times it's like different sizes of like promotional material, like images to be used that are long ways like banners. You need to have different images, interior shots of the stuff, all to be used for things like marketing and promotion. And for me, it's like if I could upload everything to like a database that is that sort of can be organized to where it's just all on a cloud that's just for like my comics. And then I would basically have that there. And then whenever I'm collaborating with other people or just wanting to display like a portion of it as like my portfolio, as like if somebody I want to reach out to be like, if they want to possibly work together and they want to see my work, I can just be like, here's my promo portfolio folder that
Mhm.
I give you access to.
Yeah.
And so it's like something that's basically a combination of sort of cloud storage that also is helpful for like project management and collaboration. So I'm
Mhm.
starting to build that site or like a web app. Um, and I'm just curious, like, how does that seem like something that is you would ever want to use at all? Or does that even like, do you ever find that like difficult or like trying to keep all of your books together? And like whenever, because like you go, if once you start doing more promotion, if you haven't already, it's like people will ask you like, can you send a press kit? Can you send a synopsis? Can you send a log line? And I'm at the point to where I've now have, you know, four different titles, some all with at least 3 to 4 issues each, and all of them had different ones at some point. And and it's like I keep them all together, but it's large files, they're unorganized. It's sort of somewhat hard to uh, keep all this and then sort of streamline it to where it's easy to just like know what is what and when I can use what to post on Facebook, what to send to a reviewer, and so on.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be super useful. The people I've worked with, we just are using Google Docs,
Yeah,
and we
but
just kind of go on there, but it has its limits.
yeah, yeah. No, that's my thing is like the way I'm doing it now works and it includes Google Docs, but it's I also it's like that's why I'm trying to figure out like am I just sort of doing too much? So like to me it's like this is because it's like I have Google Docs for everything I do. I have multiple businesses. I also am doing the same thing for films and stuff. And it's like I just want sort of and obviously like my own day job is also doing the same thing and it sort of all gets jumbled together and it's not easily it's like I can give somebody access to a certain shared drive or a shared file. um, so it's like that's part of the cloud management. It's like it does work, but it'd be nice if everything was just already on there because a lot of times if I'm at work, someone will ask me for something that's only on my home computer.
Yeah.
And I have to be like, well, I can't send that to you because it's on my computer. Or if it is on, like, sometimes it's like, oh, that might be on my, like, the cloud or on Google Drive,
Mhm.
but that was only like in a certain thing that I have to now search for because it was like an old thing. I don't even remember who gave me that quote,
Yeah,
like,
be
and
anywhere.
what was that for? And if it's even there, but it's like if I had it just like in a file to where it's just like, well, that just went into, the project management subcategory of that book. Then I can just go back, get on that app and be like, here it is. Send it over. There's the variant Virgin from issue 2 of Liquid Kill Volume 2. Like, because that's what's weird. It's like people ask me something very specific that it's like, it's definitely not on my phone, might be on a shared drive. It's only really on my computer. And even then, it might not be. It's buried in an email somewhere. But it's like, if all of us were just sort of collaborating together, and here's the kicker is like, if that's how that is, the other main thing is like I would have just sort of a live profile that would just, be like my picture and sort of a resume of all my books. And that's sort of a landing page. So I would no longer really have a need for a website because if people wanted to look me up, I would just be like, go to my comic database and go to my profile, and at the top is like a landing page for whatever new live book I have that links to my Kickstarter or the where they can buy it from my publisher or whatever.
Hmm.
And then below that is just like the resume, all my stuff. So anybody, whether it's another comic creator and they just want to be like, what has this guy done? It's like all the highlights are right there. Here's what he has live now. Here's everything he's done. And if you want to double click into like, well, what was this project? Who published it? It's like you click that and then whatever. And then they go, yeah, let's connect. Now it's like connect. And then it's like, okay, now let's collaborate. And it's like, all right, now you get all the deeper files.
Hmm.
And then it's all on my phone. So then I could talk about this forever because I am just like constantly thinking about this. I don't want to just shield my own thing. But yeah,
Sounds like a
I'm
great
just now starting to try to get a read on people like what do they think about this and like the uh am I crazy to think that this isn't
idea.
like because I've a lot of times I dive into projects and people are like, you know that already exists and it's called freaking blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I didn't know that.
No, that sounds like a great idea, man. You're not crazy.
Well, thanks. All right, I'll keep you
I want to hear
updated
more.
as I get go further on that project. It's in early stages. Um, all right. Well, I think that about covers it. If there's anything else you want to shill or promote other than Humbaba, uh, what are your main links? You're on Instagram. Are you on Twitter or anything else?
Instagram is a Rickatroid at Rickatroid. Uh, Facebook, yeah, same thing.
Okay, I'll put all the links.
Yeah, my website's
Rickatroid.
rickysykes.com. I did want to run something by you too, if you
Yeah,
got
go
a
for it.
second. So like most of the artwork I do now for comics is digital, right? No shame in
Yeah.
that. I love digital art. It's good, it's fast. You got the back button. Love it. Especially with my iPad now. That thing's zippy and nice. But I've entertained the idea, and if the story suits it well, I would like to try to use oil painting in sequential art. But not the typical oil painting that you see like Van Gogh or something like that. I've got a piece here. Do you mind if I show you real quick?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
But it's really sketchy and really loose, and I think it'd be more suitable for I don't know, something that's not strictly superhero action stuff, you know?
Uh-huh.
But this is not a sequential art piece. This is a live figure drawing that I do in oil
Okay.
from a model. But I think that would be too cool as like sequential art.
Oh,
Obviously, it
yeah.
have to be big like this to do the physical piece. I think I worked it out to where it was like 24 by 36 is the equivalent to a 8.5 by 11, like, you know, not eight and a
Oh,
half. I
the
guess.
proportions are the same or
Yeah,
whatever.
same.
Yeah, okay.
So
Are
I
you
have
gonna release it in a bigger, like a sequential art, but in a bigger size, or
no,
like
I would release it in normal
in
comics.
the normal, like whatever that ratio is? I don't remember.
Yeah, that would be super cool. There's another piece up there on the wall that's kind of similar. And honestly, that seems like this would be more work and just kind of too much of a commitment, but I can do this faster than I can a normal comic page.
I'd be all for it. I love that kind of stuff. Do you know who Damian Connolly is?
No, let me write that down, Mo.
Let me it's like Damian Damin. Um, I'm trying to pull him up on.
Damien Con.
I think I'm getting his. I have to be. It's Damien. Um,
I'm gonna point you toward one.
he's done a bunch of work with. Why am I blanking on the Sumerian and before that they were called. Dang, why am I blanking? But it's 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 Damien. I believe it's spelled Damian.
Uh,
And then Connolly is spelled Connelly.
okay.
And I feel like he might not actually do full blown like oil, but his work is always super. At least some of his earlier is like that, to where
Mhm.
it looks to me like uh, did it in some kind of physical form first and then scanned it. But it's super amazing looking.
Yeah.
Um, Now, okay, I found him. Yeah, he did work with um yeah, it was Sumerian, and he was mainly he had a hit a few years ago that came out at the same as whenever My It Eats What Feeds It came out. And but now it looks like he does a lot of his own stuff. But if you look at his art, I think especially if you look at some of his older stuff, he was able to blend that, and I thought it looked great. And he has an audience. It's even and his stuff is mostly in black and white as well. And he's not the only one that has sort of mixed the physical medium into the sequential art stuff. But that was just the first one that came to my mind.
Hmm. I'll check that out. That sounds.
And that's kind of where my thing is, to where I talk. That's what he's known for. You promised me darkness, and it came out with Behemoth is what they used to be called, and then they got bought out by Sumerian. I don't know why I blanked on that because I actually was going to be published by them back in the day. But um, yeah, I always push do something different. Like that's what really stands out is that's kind of how I got recognized was um by people that Gabriel Yumazar's artistic style um and the way he did sort of the fog and it eats what feeds it was so unorthodox in a sense that it just caught people's attention even
Yeah.
if they weren't that into the story.
Hmm.
And I have always pushed that to where it's like if you're an artist and you have your own distinct style, whether that be especially in this case, it's like a just the actual way you illustrate, but also the medium that you're doing it on. If that's what you're known for, you can do that. You know, another person that I think was known for that is he's known for being the richest artist in the world. He's the guy that like did graffiti art for Facebook.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. Dave
he
Show.
also did like before his career in that, he did these almost like zines
Yeah.
that were sequential art, but I think he maybe did like in charcoal or something like that. And they were really cool, but that captured the attention. They were just different,
Hmm.
poetic, and yeah, I'm all for it. Yeah.
I think
So
it'd be
I think it'd be
awesome.
really cool.
I'm excited about it. Sometimes
His
I feel like I need to skip the Humbaba sequel and just jump on that, just because it excites me so much. But yeah.
I yeah, I'm the worst when it comes to which project to go on to because yeah, it's like the it's the toughest thing in comics because it's like in order to make any of this work and like to get the attention of anybody, especially publishers, it's like you have to have completed work. So it's like you have to kind of at least complete one issue of something before you can even consider anything. But
Yeah.
once you're in that deep, now you want to finish the whole story. And then if you start to get, you might not like really get an audience for it until you start to work on your next project. So then it's like, well, now I'm on my new project that's going to take me a year to do. But now people are talking about my old project that I finished over a year ago and they're wanting more of that.
Yeah.
So it's just like, especially like you doing it all yourself, it's like it's sort of the long game. And
Yeah.
once you're in it, you're in it until you're done. Um,
Now, eventually, I would like to assemble a team, but
yeah.
I guess when I started this, I didn't want there to be so many moving parts to where it was like I don't know what's going on. It's kind of I didn't want it to make me anxious. But with it just me starting out, I feel like I have some control with everything. But once I'm comfortable, bring on the team.
Yeah, and now you know what like what everybody wants, what everybody needs, getting it from paper to print. It's
Mhm.
like, yeah, so you can hire someone to be like, "Can you just do this thing?"
Yeah.
I just need you to do the lettering. I
Mhm.
just somebody do the layout or whatever. Like you're now the director of the project instead of every single aspect of it.
That's
You can
right.
delegate because
It's
you
not,
know what's needed
That's right. It's not such a mystery now, you know. It's not just something out there that, you know, that I don't know anything about. It's kind of okay.
The cool thing
I got a handle on the main major chunks of this. So yeah.
it, a lot of this has to do because you're already just a pro at art, but that's the cool thing about comics is once you sort of dive in and you finish a project, you're kind of at that point a pro because it's like if you finished one and you got it out there, like you know all the pieces to this game, and
Mhm.
now it's just building up your skill set, you
Mhm.
know, and it's just like you can call yourself a comic creator because you did it.
That's
You
right.
got that far, and it's like not it's not as hard as trying to, you know, build a, a web app like I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right, we'll close there. I think we did it perfectly, like right about an hour. So I should
Yeah.
have this live. Um, it might take me a few days, for sure by next Tuesday, and possibly by like this Thursday, but we'll see.
Okay.
I publish them on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, or Thursdays because I never get any traction if I post it on the weekend, and I
Oh yeah.
never get any traction if I post it late in the day. Like if
Yeah.
I edit this and like I'm ready to go at like 9 p.m., no one watches it. If
Right.
I publish it on a Friday morning, nobody cares because they're getting ready for the weekend or whatever. But on
Yeah.
a Tuesday at like 8 a.m., that's whenever I get people that are like, yeah, I don't want to pay attention to work. I just want to watch Max's videos or listen while I work or whatever.
Hmm.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for doing this, man. And keep in touch with me after the campaign ends and let me know whenever you are getting ready to start or at least promote your next project, the sequel, and we'll do this again.
All right. This was awesome. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, yeah. I've been following you for a while. So it's just like
Finally get to
and
meet you,
once I
brother.
saw that that was live, I was like, he did it. Like that's crazy. Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, that's awesome. Well done on everything. I'll catch you later.
Appreciate you, bud.